It's Monday and shit is wild out there.
Monday be Mondayin'.
And welcome to the back half of season 2 of Luke, Who Is Your Father? I'm your host, Ricky.
And I am always excited for the back half. This is Jules.
And we are coming to you once again without our
Sans
precious
Kenny.
Candeloni.
We killed her and we buried her in the backyard.
That is not an admission of guilt. Everything is alleged. No, Candela is still in Italy with Tina.
She is so nice. She's on a long vacation with my mother.
For her birthday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her 21st birthday.
Her 21st birthday. Her eternal 21st birthday. And we miss them dearly. And Kendall will be back with us next week. And in the meantime, you're still stuck with me and Julian, and I'm still sitting on the floor.
And I am still sitting behind her awkwardly. I actually really am enjoying it. I think it's fun.
We should have done it like this the whole time, but there wouldn't be room for 3 of us.
I do love a good floor sit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably not great. I'm not like sitting up straight because of the mic. But typically I would be sitting up straight.
Yes.
But it is enjoyable. Yes.
Shockingly enough, I don't think too much has happened in our lives between this week and last week.
We are creatures of habit.
Yes.
It's still been a bunch of life admin. Any pop culture events that you want to talk about? Britney Spears' book is out.
Oh my God. That was not, sorry. I thought my disdain was for Justin Timberlake, of course.
And just overall for what we put the women through.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked that out, I recommend checking it out. I do a pop 10, like a recount of the 10 biggest events in pop culture for my friends who aren't on the internet. That is potentially something that we'll dig into.
Oh, yeah. I can't, nope.
No?
Blanking. There's one that I'm definitely just not going to talk about because I don't want to talk about it.
Not giving those 2 any more airtime.
Yes, exactly. And outside of that, the Sophia Bush thing is kind of interesting.
Ooh, spicy.
You guys are going to be hearing this far after it has been happening. But yeah.
Yeah. It was like I celebrated it for 1 second until things got dicey.
I know. I'm still not, we don't know everything.
The women's soccer team says all love.
All love. I loved the In My Lemonade era.
Yes.
That was pretty great.
Well, which leads me to believe that it is not all love.
Yes.
Joran Vandersloot finally confessed to Natalie Holloway's murder.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. He confessed and said exactly how she spent her final moments. And it is rough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you off air.
Yeah.
But that's huge. If you were a 90s baby, that was like,
God, I remember that plaster all over the
first introduction to murder aside from OJ.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that he will be getting what he deserves.
Yes.
Even though he was already in prison for killing another woman.
Oh, I don't think I knew that either.
Oh yeah.
I gotta brush up.
Shortly after Natalie. Yeah.
What? Okay. Why?
But yeah, all that's going on in our world is what is going on in the world in general. So without further ado, will sing it, and we don't have to tell you about it. Jules, do you want to ask the question?
Yeah,
of the
it was just
day?
I'm channeling my inner Kendall. So let's go with, what is your favorite lazy pastime on like a perfect weekend? What's a perfect lazy day on a weekend for you?
I am going to be honest. I don't do lazy days very well. I learned this during unemployment. But if we're talking about just a perfect, I'll try for a lazy day. It definitely includes.
Or, I mean, it doesn't. What's your perfect weekend then?
Yeah, just without work.
Yes. What is exactly? That's what I meant.
Which, when you run a podcast, guess what? There is no weekend without work. But, so yes, if a perfect weekend without work, I would say Colin and I would wake up, go to Granny's Tacos.
Oh yeah,
and
that was on Luke's taco tour.
Amazing.
So
and
good.
freewheeling coffee because the food truck is right by the other food truck.
Right.
And then we would go get on the water. I would preferably be rowing. like in a sculling boat,
Yeah.
but not going to do that with Colin. So we'll put ourselves both in our individual kayaks. And then we would probably get micheladas and oysters for lunch. And then we would play a game of checkers in the park. We play a lot of checkers.
Checkers?
Yes.
Wow. All right. It's been a minute.
We're currently in our checker series 4-1 for Ricky, 1 Colin.
Okay. Sounds about right.
And then we would catch an Alamo Drafthouse late matinee of a horror movie. And then, God, it's hard for me to say that we'd still be hungry, but let's just pretend that we'd still be hungry. We would go out for a steak dinner. And then some wine for me. Some club soda for Colin.
Yeah.
And then we would go home and like play a record and sit and talk to each other.
That's so cute.
And then we go to bed. What about you?
I fucking Ricky and this goddamn Aura ring has ruined my life. I have to admit. So this art thing started. I mean, it's been a couple of years now, but
it's like a rehab.
Yeah.
Art rehab.
I used to stay up for 72 hours on the weekends. That is not an exaggeration. And now, because I do not do that anymore, but I do still stay up all night. So if I'm working on an art project, which I need to be now, like I feel like I need to be working on one. Like I just finished yours. I have the one that I'm getting started next. Greg, I'm so excited. But I will sit and I swear to God, I will do that for 12 hours. And sometimes it will take me into like the wee hours of the like good 4 a.m., 5 a.m. If I'm not doing that, I am a little coucher. I like to binge because I don't do that during the week. I just watched House of Usher. I was going to ask if you've seen it.
So good. We should just have talked about that instead.
We'll have a little night of it. And Luke and I very much so have our own. He's a little gamer. And I have found since I have changed my ways, I think my alone time is much more valuable to me because I was literally never alone. And so Luke plays his video games and I sit down here in art. And that is a perfect weekend for me, honestly. Yeah.
That's great. Art rehab.
Yes.
I don't drink often anymore and certainly not enough to become hungover. But if I did, then I would nest.
Yeah.
I would definitely be doing the same thing and order a giant vat of hot and sour soup and crab rangoons.
Yeah.
And that is all that would be a perfect lazy day for me.
And the art is hard to do hungover. So yeah, I have to keep that to a minimum as well.
And we're going to speak for Kendall again.
It's got to be very similar to yours.
It's very similar to mine. But she would she wouldn't wake up and go to like Granny's Tacos and coffee.
Water.
She would wake up. She would take Lola for a walk. And then her and Lee would post up at like Armadillo Den.
Either on the water or at bar watching football.
Or a combo.
Yeah. Totally.
And that'd be her perfect weekend.
I'm confident in this answer.
Yes. Very confident in this answer.
Yeah. And probably end with like a game night.
Yeah. Like friends over for a game night, making a cocktail.
Yes.
And like a
meat on the smoker.
Batch cocktail and meat on the smoker. So that's how we spend our ideal days.
Test number 2 for Kenny. Let's see if she listens to the episode.
She's probably like, fuck them. I'm not listening to their 2 episodes alone together.
Real.
That's fine. Well, it's part 2 this week of Ariel Roberts. Again, this is our first foray into any type of true crime. Not that that's what we're focused on, but we left off with Ariel after her father had been murdered. And she was reading the emails that she wrote to his murderer in jail.
For the first time since it happened.
Because she wanted to like better understand him because she is limitless when it comes to her capability for curiosity and empathy. And we wanted to bring her a nice bow, find out what happened when she went to see him, the repercussions that all of those events have had on her life today and her own parenting.
Yes.
So without further ado, I just couldn't be more excited to be part 2 of Ariel Roberts. We are back with Ariel and we are so excited about it. Ariel, last we left you, we were reading some letters that you had exchanged with your father's murderer in jail. But sort of more importantly, you were back at home in Michigan and you've been there since then. How has it been?
Yeah, it's good. I've been here for a minute, pretty much the whole summer actually. But it's good. I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go back to Spain.
I imagine after we got done with our first interview, I had so many ads on TikTok and Instagram to move to Spain. Or like that they'd pay me $100,000 to move to a remote Irish island. Well,
Yeah.
no surprises there.
Are you gonna do it?
No. Oh my gosh. I was actually just thinking of all of that and I realized I'm not wearing my engagement ring and I don't know why. But anyway. Well, I'm glad you have had a nice time at home. And we just wanted to sort of pick back up where is natural for you. We sort of stopped right in the middle of you reading some letters that you hadn't looked at in a while and would love for you to just take us home in terms of the communication that you had with your father's murderer, the decisions that you and your mom are making post that, and more importantly, the relationships that you've had and grown since then. And into your own motherhood. So if you just want to take us where it feels good.
Sure. I'm so glad to be back. So last time we left off going over some emails between my father's killer and myself. I think we were back in 2017, 2018, and I think I had started messaging him in 2016. So about 2 years deep into it. And after we ended, I kind of kept going through them and realized just the headspace that I was in then and how similar it kind of is to, where I am now, which is, what's happened has happened. There's nothing that can bring my father back. And in retrospect, looking back, there's a lot of things to be proud of. There's a lot of things to be scared of. There's a lot of things to be nervous about. There's a lot of things that I wish we could change, but we can't. And so I've just really learned to love and appreciate the life that I have because of my story, because of, my connection, my 4-month-old connection with my father. And then just even digging into, this relationship with his murder, like it's a part of my story and I wouldn't change anything. But basically going over those emails, it brought up a lot for me, but I just realized that in the end my mom and I still feel the way that we do, which is that we think that a life sentence without parole is really harsh for a young 20-year-old. And we've forgiven and moved forward, and if we can, and we're still not sure if we can, but if there's anything that we could do to help and support him, we're down for it.
Yeah. I really think that you're both pretty magical for that, honestly. I totally understand where you're coming from. I agree with you that a life sentence is super harsh for someone so young and especially maybe not in the greatest of circumstances. But I don't think that there are a lot of people that could come to that conclusion when it was their own father who they were really robbed of that time with him and still find that air of curiosity and forgiveness. So I think you're both magical.
Thank you. I definitely get it from my mom because that's a perfect word to describe her, magical. She's a great human.
I also just think the nuance between, and we talked about it already, that you felt you felt the way that you do when you were 16, when you were first starting to ask these questions, and the ability to come at this from a place where you're not, I don't want to phrase this in a bad way, but not putting your father on a pedestal either, and not coming, because I think immediately when a lot of times when someone passes away, that is period, regardless of what circumstances, what they were. I think we have a tendency to really, really put them on a pedestal and to just forget that they are a person, or that they were a person, and that it's not, it's really easy to just tout every single positive thing about them and say that they were perfect, and harbor a lot of anger towards any other party, where you had the awareness to say, I know that my dad wasn't perfect. And I think and I mean, you tell us, but I think that's what gave you, informed a lot of your grace towards this other man, is knowing that they're both just human.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. I think that is something that is really instilled in me, maybe innately, because I've just never been any different way. And so, actually, funny story. I can see how it's trickled down generationally. I don't know if we're hopping too much around, but when my son was in kindergarten, he came home with like a mark, like a kind of blackish eye and a mark underneath his eye. And I was like, of course, what happened? Like, talk to mommy. And he's like, I got hit at recess. And I'm like by a ball or like by a fist, because like two totally different things, right? And he was like, yeah, I was a little boy, like a grade or two, older than us. And so I'm like, I'm a little confused and, whatever. So the next day I go up to the school and I'm, talking to the principal who I had a relationship with. And I also was working in public schools, like in the same district. And so, I pulled him aside and I was like, hey, my son was talking to me, told me he got hit in the eye, blah, blah. Turned out to be like a really crappy situation where like the kid who did it, he was an expat or an immigrant. And so he was like 8 years old. So my son was 5. And he was like taking care of his younger siblings while his parents were working. And so it was just a really like rough life situation. And so, I remember talking to my son about it, before kind of disclosing like the information that I had gotten from his principal. And, I asked him, why didn't you hit him back? Like the typical parent question, which like now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad he didn't, because right, like fighting is not the answer, but also I want you to defend yourself. So like if you need to fight or like hit back, like mommy's got you, mommy's got you. But so I asked him, why didn't you hit him back? And he said, well, mommy, I don't know what type of day he had. And I was like, oh my God, my heart.
The fuck up.
I know.
He was 5?
He was 5 years old.
God.
I know. It was the sweetest thing ever. And it just like, it was one of those just like endearing mommy moments. It's just like, I freaking love you. Like you are so mine. You're so my child. And so, yeah, I think that just kind of goes to show kind of generationally, like that trait was really passed. And I think like my mom is like she's the matriarch of that trait. So
does she, have you articulated that to her?
That she's the
source of that.
That she knows she's my everything. She knows. Yeah, we talk about this all the time. She's actually super funny. She always tells me that like if she were to, no longer be here, pass away today, the one thing that she will never doubt is like my appreciation and love for her, because I tell her so much. So
it makes me feel bad. Mom, I really appreciate you and I love you a lot.
I think it's really, I don't have that difficult of a time being vulnerable with most people. I don't think. I could be wrong. I don't know. But my mom is definitely one of them. Like I don't, our conversation with her in our first season, that was still a lot of just like information and asking her how she was feeling and things like that. Not me telling her anything about the way that I feel about her or anything like that. That isn't just like totally placating her. And I don't know how comfortable I am with that notion.
I'm not. Yeah. I can attest to that. Yeah. I wonder what that is. Yeah, I have a really, really tough time. Well, I think I have a tough time with that in general.
Are you saying like your birth mother?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, I think a lot of that goes back to like attachment styles, right? So, we start bonding and attaching with our parents at a very, very young age, and every single experience, even in utero, it shapes our bond and our attachment style to our parents. And I think this also just goes to show my obviously attachment to my mom. And one of the things I said last time we were on was just that I really love and appreciate my mommy and my stepfather for creating that open and honest, vulnerable space for me to be able to come and talk to them about, things. Obviously not everything, but especially like with my dad and this situation and my feelings, that was like a really big thing. Like I remember when my stepdad married my mom, down the line, he asked me if I wanted to change my last name. And I told him no. And it's super funny. The reason I told him no, I didn't want to, is like totally childish. Totally. I was like, I don't want my name to change alphabetically in the order at school. I was like, I like being behind Katie.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with that.
And he was respectful of it, and they like just did a really good job making sure that I always felt like loved and cared for. So anyways, with that being said, too, that attachment piece is usually the like reason for whether or not you can be open and vulnerable with your parents.
Yeah, I think the closer that I get with people, the less likely I am to be vulnerable with them. Which I think is sort of the inverse of what is natural.
What's intuitive?
No, I mean, it's
Intuitive.
like it's just your experience, right?
Well, I'm having a moment. I think that we both, all three of us, went through the situation where so much of our childhood was our dads were sick, right? So it's not that someone didn't create space for us to be that way. It's just that the focus was elsewhere. And then we ended up losing, obviously, these people that we loved and were very close to us.
Yeah.
So it might just be like that's how
Defense mechanism.
Yeah, defense mechanism. And like, I don't, the closer I get to you, I just don't want to get hurt that way. And just, neither one of us got to get close with our parents really in that time because our moms were focusing on our dads and our dads were dying. Yeah.
And we probably also didn't want to take away attention or anything like that from like what we are going through.
Yeah, who cares what we're going through? Yeah, exactly.
Which like I also feel like is a really great trait that you all have, because it's not easy to be a child and to think that responsibly as well. Like, hey, obviously I'm recognizing this is a really serious situation and I want to be as great as possible to not take attention away from what needs to have all of the attention. So as hard as I'm sure that all was, like, that really speaks to the characteristics that you guys have.
Well, thanks.
Thanks, Ariel.
Back to you.
Yeah. I do have, and this is kind of turning it away. So if you guys have other things in this vein that you wanted to talk about.
I think the only thing, and only if Ariel wants to talk about it, is just when she did go visit him in prison. But again, that's totally up to you.
Okay. Yeah, I can jump in.
Yeah.
Okay. So after probably about 2 or 3 years of communicating back and forth, I did decide to go and see him in person. And so, I had to go through the whole process to make sure I was approved and I got his permission. And I don't really know what my expectations were. Everyone asks me that question. I'm not really sure. I don't think I had any. But if I did, I think it was like to kind of get answers, but I was also content with not really necessarily getting them, because like, what answer can someone give you for murder? Like nothing suffices. So, so I think I just wanted to, see him in person. Like, he was a person who robbed me of like such a big part of my life. I don't know. I just felt like I needed to like see him, look him in the face, look him in the eye. And it wasn't like an intimidation thing in any way, shape, or form. Like I could be intimidating. But
Sure you could, actually.
yeah, no, you're right. I get that a lot.
Ariel's one of the, if she was mad at, oh my God, if you were mad at me, it would just kill me. It would absolutely kill me. It would be
so
devastating.
Well, it takes a lot to make me mad. So.
Exactly. Exactly.
True. The meeting was interesting. Kind kind of went in. I told you guys previously, he's had some medical issues. So he had on these like really dark, like glasses. And so I don't really know all that's going on with him medically, but he was saying that the light is really irritating and bothersome to him. I did ask him to take off his glasses because I wanted to see his eyes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could tell he was struggling, but like he did it and he was respectful of it. And, you know, I don't know. Yeah. I can't really remember all that we talked about. I do remember at one point I'm like sitting there and I started to tear up, and it was like one of those movie moments where it's like the teardrop is like right there and only the audience can see it. And then all of a sudden someone's like offering you a tissue and it's like, where did you come from? Like, you knight in shining armor. And it was like this guard who just had like a box of tissues on the side of me. And I was like, okay, so clearly I'm being surveillanced like on like a deeper level. So I don't know if like everyone kind of knew the situation, or if maybe I had started crying way before I thought so.
There's just a guard whose job is to provide Kleenexes for the visitors.
Probably. I have to ask, did you find it anticlimactic? Because it seems like one of those things that would be.
Yeah, it was. It was just kind of like, okay. Yeah. Like, this is it. You know, it wasn't a very long visit. You know, I think we talked a little bit about it. He, you know, kind of told me his side. He had shared some things with me that he hadn't via the emails. And, you know, we talked a little bit too about just his experiences in jail. Like, he's, as I think you guys could probably tell from some of the emails, he is articulate, you know, so he spent some time like learning and studying. And I even saw that he was helping out a program through University of Michigan. They were trying to do like some type of program that was helping like young juveniles. And so he was a part of that as well. So, you know, his efforts were noticed. And, you know, so he kind of just told me a little bit about like the stuff that he had done while he was there. And he's just kind of accepted his life for what it is. And, you know, he asked for forgiveness. And yeah.
Did you give it to him?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think I verbalized that also via emails before, you know, but yeah, you know, I mean, there's no hard feelings. I don't know. I don't want to hold on to anything because then it just creates negative space in my life. And I don't know. I don't have time for that.
Do you remember if you walked, what was like, I'm just picturing you just getting up, leaving the table and walking out of the doors, however far away they were. And do you remember what that felt like?
Yeah, I do actually. That's funny that you ask. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of felt complete. Like, okay, like we did it, you know, and like that fulfilled whatever I guess I needed it to, even though it was still kind of anticlimactic. Like there wasn't like any aha moment or like this answer, you know, to this big question. It was just kind of like, okay, this was something that I've been thinking about for years, like probably over a decade at that point. And I did it and it went well, like as far as I'm concerned. Like, you know, he could have been a really mean man or, you know, I don't know, anything could have happened.
Do you think relief at all?
I don't think I had relief, no. And probably, and I guess maybe this speaks to the expectation, but maybe I was kind of wondering if he could give me like a why, you know, which he wasn't really able to. Like it wasn't like there was a reason or like not a reason. He claims he blacked out. He kind of remembered saying, you know, after it happened, he remembered just saying like, I have to get gas. And so he just kind of like walked me through that, like his memory just being, I got to go get gas. And it's like, do you not remember what just happened? Like, you got to go get gas now. So yeah, I don't think relief, but just kind of like one of those things.
Closure,
where it's like, yeah, like it is what it is.
I don't remember if we went over it last time. Was your father during the altercation, was he armed as well, or was it just this other car?
Yeah, it was just the other car. No, he didn't. Okay. He did get out and throw the first punch though. So he was the physical aggressor in it. And then I from what I remember, I don't know if I've read this or just heard, but you know, I think the guy was I think he was still in the car when he just kind of pulled it out. And yeah. And so actually after we had that conversation, I reached out to his best friend. And so I had like an hour and a half call with him, which was the first time we've talked since
Your
about
dad's best friend.
my dad's best friend. Yeah.
And you're talking about the last time we talked, not the last when you left
yes.
your yeah.
Apologies. Yep. So the last last session that the four of us had together, the next morning, that night I like texted him like, hey, is this still your number? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, it's me. And he's like, oh my God, hey. And he just like called me. So I was like, it was a good little like catch up call. And so I was able to like get a little bit more insight from him because it's been years since I talked to him. And he's still harboring a lot of like guilt and shame and regret and sadness. He's remarried, and he actually told me he hasn't told his new wife about the situation. And I think he is suffering a little bit from like PTSD because he talks about how because he was the driver and he's constantly looking in the rearview mirror and constantly like aware of like cars pulling up on him. And he said his wife actually mentioned it a couple of days prior to this conversation, and he's like, it's just crazy that she asked me that. I couldn't really figure it out why, but now talking to you, I'm able to like, this is where it's from. So
and it's like noticeable.
Yeah. I wonder if I hope he's able to open up about that.
Yeah.
That leads actually perfectly into the question that I had, which was, last time we didn't really go over it, but I was wondering if you would be comfortable sharing your relationship with his best friend, because you said he was your godfather, right?
Yeah, he was. I don't have a relationship with him. I talked to him twice in my entire life. The first time was when I reached out to him on Facebook back in, I think around the same time that I'd reached out to my father's killer in jail. So I think this was like summer of 2016. So I'd reached out to him via Facebook. We exchanged numbers, and then we had a call. He did send me like a package full of like documentation that he had been keeping over the years pertaining to my dad, like some newspaper articles and etc. So he sent me, a folder full of things, and then we haven't talked since until a couple weeks ago when we did.
Oh, I bet he was happy to hear from you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I bet he was so happy to hear from you.
Yeah,
he was. It was,
especially if he's not open to sharing that right now in his personal life. I'm sure that is a nice
outlet.
Outlet for him.
Yeah.
My last question about this whole part of it, and it doesn't have to do with your meeting specifically, but just out of my own curiosity, what was visiting prison like?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I don't know. Normal. When I came in, I had to, take off jewelry, put my phone away. So even when I was in the waiting room, I couldn't have my phone. So I had put it in a locker, along
just
with
raw dog in the waiting room.
Yeah, I know, it was boring. I remember like watching this commercial that they had about the prisons over and over and over and over. And I'm like, oh my God, I like know this by heart now. Yeah, but honestly, I think I was only waiting about 20-30 minutes. So it wasn't like extremely long. But then, they walk you through, they pat you down, you walk through like the metal detector, and then you wait and kind of go in line with like, everyone else, so they call your name, and then you walk up, and then, they kind of like ask you a couple of questions, who are you visiting? What's the purpose, et cetera, and then they let you through. So the only difference is I would say like the room that we met in was actually really comfy. Like I sat on a couch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was like on this couch. It was almost like reminds me like of a little like therapy office. Cause it was like, I was on the couch and he was like on this chair.
Oh my gosh,
you
I
guys
was
like
imagining like the plexiglass with like the phone.
I was imagining the like lunchroom vibes, like circle tables with other people. So you guys were alone.
We weren't alone. There were other like people in the room. That would have made more sense had we been alone and like someone popped up with like a box of tissues by my face. But no, there were a lot more people, and there's other people visiting. But we were all, we were all there,
like a Harry Potter common room.
Like a Harry Potter common room.
My favorite holiday.
Yes, Ricky's favorite holiday is Harry Potter common room.
Oh my gosh.
I went to see a boyfriend in jail often. And first of all, it was fucking stupid because they actually just put me in front of a screen and he wasn't even in that jail. He was in a different jail, but that's where I would have to go to get on like, what is a Zoom call now? But this was in 2014. I don't understand. I can't remember what I did when I got there ever. And I was definitely going on a regular basis. So that is something to note. And I don't know why they weren't just letting me do that at home.
Yeah, that's weird.
Why was I having
You had to go to a jail that was not the jail that he was in.
Yes.
To look at him on a computer screen?
Yes.
Why? Today I learned, Ariel. I did not know this. That's strange.
I have a question, and this could be a really dumb question that we can cut out
No such
if
thing.
we need to. But our sperm donor asked us if we had found him and figured out that he was in prison, if we would visit him. And it was a resounding no from all
I got a
of
text
us.
about that today.
Yeah. So I was wondering, like if the tables were turned, I'm sure it's like different because we had dads that were not him. But like if the tables were turned and if your father had ended up being the one to kill someone and go to jail when you were 4 months old, would you have, or prison, would you have visited him?
I've got my wager.
Because you wouldn't have
Interesting.
known him at that point.
I I can only guess that I would probably still have had the same upbringing, which probably would have brought me to where I was as a young child. Anyways, I just didn't verbalize it until age 16. And honestly, at that point, I probably would have just been really pissed. Like I probably would have gone because I was a very obedient child. And so like, if my mom told me we were going, I would probably go. I feel like my mom would probably, she would have probably like made me go. But I think after a while, maybe when I had my own like understanding of life and world and being a mom and et cetera, like I think I just would have been pissed, which is honestly kind of where I'm at now. Like I'm so mad at him for being out and doing things when you could have been at home with your wife and your 4-month-old. You know, I know he was fighting a lot of demons, and you know, I think I'm also too close to home where I'm not able to look at this from like a therapy perspective where it's like, you know, let's be reasonable and kind of think of the things he was going through. Like everyone goes through something, and in the end of the day, you still are making a choice for you and like your loved ones. And so if that's kind of always been a thing in my head too, is like, you know, why would you do that? Just why would you do that? Like it's, I don't know, just why would you do it? So that's kind of like, yeah. And maybe that's a little bit why too I didn't feel like a lot of relief talking to him, because in the end, that's really the one question that I want answered. It's just like, why was this the life that you chose when you could have been home with mom and I? Like you could have had it differently had you chosen. So
I think that's a really therapeutic conclusion to come to, is that everyone has you can come from whatever set of circumstances, and there can be a lot of things that affect your behavior, but you always have a choice.
Kendall, I'm curious. What would you answer to that question? Would you go and visit your father that raised you in jail if they had killed someone when you were 4 months old?
I probably would.
I 100% would.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm saying, I think we're all in the same headspace, like one time, you know, kind of like you did, where it would just, I don't think any of us are like thinking about taking him, you know, cared baskets and things like that. But yeah, for one time, I would definitely be slapping my ass out there for sure.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you get this visit out of the way, and then your life really changes in a huge way. So take us through that.
All right. Yeah. So my life was changing a lot prior. So, you know, obviously the show is talking about fathers and how they've shaped you, you know, and I think my relationship with my biological father / my stepfather, like I think it speaks a lot to how I view myself as a woman and also like as a partner. And I think I struggled for a really long time finding like the right matches or the right person to also bring out the best in me. So, you know, dating for me, I was very like dominant, like in the sense where I always wanted to kind of be in control. Like I wanted to, like, I don't know, I never wanted someone to ever like hold something over my head. Like I wanted to be the in charge person.
Preach to your choir.
Yeah. That was the smirk on my face. I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing because that's how all three of us are.
I love it. We should all be friends. If we're
We
not
are
already.
friends.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Ariel, we went to the
I know.
Bahamas together.
Yeah, I know. Aruba. It was Aruba.
Oh, it was the Bahamas.
Was it really? Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's
I
fine.
don't know what's going on with my brain, guys.
So you were always the dominant one in the dating situation.
Yes, I was. Until I came across my son's father. And so that relationship is a little bit complicated. We were never technically together, but there were some things in that relationship that really changed me. I experienced a lot of issues. We weren't a good match. He wasn't very nice. I didn't feel good as a person. I didn't feel good as a mother. I didn't feel good as a woman
And
when
you
I
were both
was
like elite athletes, right?
Hmm,
Yes.
yeah. So we met through running track and field together, and you know, in the Track
You guys
Nation world.
Get on YouTube and look at Ariel because her arms. The woman is exquisite, people. She's exquisite.
And the
So
reason I
sweet.
brought that up is just because I think that might foster a sense, especially if you're used to being
Competitive, yeah.
dominant and you're both competitors.
Mhm.
In the same sport, I
Oh my
can
God.
imagine that could get a little dicey.
Probably speaks to why I am married to a man now who can barely bounce a ball. I was like, I don't want any competitors. I want the complete opposite of this human being, please. But
I interrupted you on accident. So
no,
proceed.
you're fine. So, you know, I went through a lot in that relationship. And actually I remember, so we were in this on and off, whatever you situationship for probably about 4 years. Like the first kind of 4 years of my son's life. And I remember actually being in my graduate program and I was reading a case study and it was talking about someone and how they like deflect and they hide their feelings and emotions and they don't talk about things. They're not very open and vulnerable. They laugh at things that are like not funny that's happened to them. I was like, oh my God, is this me? So I'm like reading this case study, self-diagnosing myself. And I went and I talked to one of my closest friends at the time and she was like, yeah, Ariel, like you've been needed therapy. I was like, oh my God, really? So like not funny, but like kind of funny in the fact
It's
that like
funny.
It's funny.
I think it's funny.
Right.
We're gonna need
Never.
that case study.
I know, right? I was just like, holy crap, this is crazy. I like didn't know that this was a thing that like people go to therapy for. And so I started doing a little bit of like deep work into myself and realizing just how much that relationship actually affected me. It really brought down my self-esteem, my self-worth, which I think was already a little bit damaged because I think I told you guys last time, a lot of kind of what I thought about the situation with my dad was just like, why wasn't I enough? You know, why wasn't I enough for you to be home with mom and I?
Yeah.
And then I kind of felt the same in this like situationship, like, why am I not enough for you to be nice to me? Why am I not enough for you to like commit to me? And so then after that, I was, you know, single. Like I didn't have a boyfriend, at least for probably another 3 or 4 years. So it was really just like my son and I. And I just really dedicated myself to my studies, my career and being a mom and just making sure that I could provide for my kid the best life possible.
When you found out that you were pregnant with your son, what was that like?
Woo, you're taking it way back. It was super funny, actually. Sometimes I just feel like my life is a joke. Let me tell you the story.
And there's your title.
Yes, my life is a
Yes,
joke,
that's
literally.
perfect. Sometimes I feel like my life is a joke.
Yeah, so I had just graduated. Well, not just, but I had graduated from college, from undergrad, and I knew I always wanted to live in the state of Florida. And so one day it was like over the summer after I graduated, and I was like, I'm ready. And so I took a map of Florida out and I threw a dart at it, and I was like, bet this is where I'm going. And put my 2 weeks in that day. I was working at a restaurant. And I put my 2 weeks in. I was working doubles every single day. That last day, I packed up my entire car, which was a teeny tiny Ford Focus, and I put like a hitch on the back so I could take like a U-Haul. And I put the rest of my
Did you
stuff
have
in.
no help? You just threw to smack that thing on there? You
Yeah.
just threw it on?
I did have one friend drive down with me. So yeah, we drove down. I didn't have an apartment. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. But I was going to where that dart led me.
Florida?
Because it's hot and I hate the cold. I hate the cold.
And
I
you
was
were
always
flying
like,
south. Yeah,
yes.
that's common. Yeah. Okay.
Didn't want to go out west because I was like, it's too far from my family. But lo and behold, I live in Spain now. So but anyways, at the time, Florida was my move. So anyways, I was in Tampa for about 9 months, and it's just the craziest story.
That's where the dart was?
That the dart landed on Lakeland, which is right outside of Tampa. Yes, and so
I was like, that's some lucky dart throw
I
in
know,
there, because
right?
like you could have been in
Anywhere.
Oh.
I know.
It's a swamp.
So technically Lakeland, but whatever. I was like, Tampa's bigger. I know it. Whatever. I'm going there. Yeah. So anyways, found out I was pregnant. I was about 9 months to living in Tampa. So I was down there, like no support, no family. I had one friend, she lived in Kissimmee, which is like right next to Orlando. So she was about an hour away. And so actually the night that I found out I was pregnant, I was preparing to go to a party. And so I had another friend over and we're like drinking, and I'm like going through this box in my room because like I was living like a straight up
No
bachelorette.
fucking way. No
Bachelorette.
way.
Listen.
I already know what you're
Listen. I'm going through this empty box and I'm like,
this is hilarious.
there's a pregnancy test in here and it's gonna expire next month. Next month. I was like, for the hell of it, Ariel, go sit on the toilet.
You're just like laughing, seltzer in hand, I'm sure. Oh my gosh.
Blue Moon.
Seltzers were
Blue
not a
Moon.
thing
Moon.
there.
Yeah. Blue Moon, which is still my go-to beer.
So yummy.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, no way. Like, no way. Like, it was automatic. Like, they tell you to wait 2 minutes, but like once the I was like, no way. And I'm like, it's about to expire. Like, it's broken. So there was another one. So I took that one and there was like a faint pink line. And I was like, I got to go to the store. And my friend's like, what? And I was like, look at this. And she's like, sit down and have another beer. And I was like, do you not know what this means? So I go out and I buy like 6 more, and
lo and behold.
Was this in 2013?
This was in 2014. So this was like April or May of 2014 because it was about 6 to 8 weeks approximately after spring.
Can you repeat that, please?
The 6 to 8 weeks approximately after spring break. Yeah, it sure was.
I distinctly remember hearing about this from afar. Through
him. Yeah. I probably told it just like this 9 years ago. So
I can picture Emily telling the story and it would be so funny.
So funny.
So at this point, when you're taking this test, you have just moved to Florida, I would assume, with no intention of maybe ever seeing this person again.
Yeah.
I
was distraught. I was distraught. I didn't know what to do. So as soon as I had reached out to him, and told him we were planning to abort, and I told him my only stipulation was that I just didn't want to do it by myself. And so we were planning like a time for us to get together to, do the procedure. And then he ghosted me. He ghosted me. So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, that's fine because I'll just do it on my own. I'll do it, And I don't know if I really would have gone through with it or not. I will say he was really influential. So had he been with me, I might have. But, the reason that I did decide to keep my son at that time is I just remember, as a little girl, everyone's always asking me or you or whoever, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like my occupation would always change, right? Pediatrician, lawyer, tummy doctor, whatever, etc. And the one thing that never changed is that I always knew I wanted to be a mom. Like I remember writing in my journals at a super young age, like boy and girl names for my kids. Like it was the one thing that I've just always known I was destined to be. So I was fine. Yeah.
So you always knew that you wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
And he ghosted you.
He did. Yeah.
And so when did you go from being like, I will have the procedure on my own to just kidding, I'm going to raise a child on my own?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that after I got no response after a couple of days, I was just like, well, Ariel, what do you want to do? Right? Like you're in this alone. What do you want to do? And it was kind of just a no-brainer. And yeah, so I think I had, at that point, I had reached out. Once I made the decision, I reached out to every single individual human in my family. And I told them personally, except my stepfather, because we were not on good terms at that time, which also contributes to the reason why I did not want to move home to Michigan to have my son. So I planned within a month or two, I packed all my stuff up, I subleased my apartment, and I drove back to North Carolina to have him, or to finish out the pregnancy and have him, because I had a little bit more support. I had friends, a community there. I had, a job or two that I could go back to. So
your resolve is so, your decision-making abilities
Yes.
are crazy. This is an offbeat question and it plays, we can do whatever with this, but do you watch Vanderpump Rules?
no.
Okay. So big old scandal. Tom cheats on Ariana, and Ariana, when she finds out, she texted everyone that she knew immediately that he had done this, because she said that she did not want to go home and have him convince her and manipulate her into changing the story or not telling anyone. Did that have, when you decided that you were going to keep the baby and then decided to tell everyone that you know, did that play any kind of part in what you were doing? I wanted to let everyone know so that I'm set in
Held
this
accountable
decision.
to this decision.
Yeah.
No, I think I don't depend on other people really for accountability. I'm pretty self-dependent. And so mine was more so just this is a decision that I'm making, and it's one of my first big girl decisions. And I know I'm going to have a lot of ups and downs. And so I want everyone to have the space to kind of I'm also the first grandbaby of kind of my a immediate family. My grandma has 4 kids, and out of all of them, I'm the first, baby. So it was one of those things where everyone still looks at me like a baby. So, this is kind of my first big girl thing. I kind of want everyone to know and to know from me. And I want to give everyone kind of the opportunity to share with me their thoughts and concerns, because I want to take that as constructive criticism, tell me the things that I don't know or I'm not thinking about, so I can start to prepare because this is happening, type of thing. And I felt, my family was really supportive before. So I felt even the ones who weren't, I got offers from family members, I'll send you money right now to abort. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be this. I don't want to see you, throw away everything that you've worked for, And it's okay, got it. Need to stay successful. Got it. Kind of taking everything that they're saying and turning it into something that I just need to make sure I stay more motivated to do.
You're not normal. You're
No.
not. You are a different breed. You are so special. This is not how any of us would approach this situation, and your way is better. And I am jealous.
Yes,
I
I
am
am too.
jealous of
Yeah.
you. I want to be you when I grow up. I'm so serious. Everything that you've said, I'm like, this bitch.
I know, because I wouldn't have even, it wouldn't occur to me. I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Shut the
No,
fuck up.
it's genuinely such a positive way to think about that kind of thing that I'm hoping to God I remember to do from now on. But you are just miraculous. I really can't.
We're going to all get tattoos.
What would Ariel do? Ariel do.
I will say this positivity has like been something that was instilled in me, and I lost a lot of that after the relationship with my son's father. Like I was a lot more negative, and so I'm seeing it more now in my like marriage right now, because this is the first relationship I've been in since him, and so I'm seeing it, but like get ready for the mushy gushiness, but like when you find your person, you want to be better in ways that you didn't even know you needed improvement. And like that's really where I'm at with my husband. Is just like I'm taking every single experience from my past, and I'm like going through it, and I'm doing the work and processing so that I can be better, because like he's the most amazing human I've ever met.
Can vouch. He's pretty incredible. Just to really pull a thread through all of it, what would you say you took from the premature death of your father and the interactions that you had after that with his murderer? How did those experiences shape how you approached being a mom and then being the partner that you are today?
Good question. As far as being a mom, like my kid's my everything. Everything that I do is for him. And like we have a very open and honest and communicative relationship. It's getting more difficult because he's getting to that age,
Oh yeah.
But like everything I do, like, is this in the best interest of my child? Is this in his best interest? Like, is this the best decision for him? And like, even, I had to take his dad to court in order for us to get approval to go to Spain. Fortunately for me, all I had to do was just kind of lay out everything that I had, everything that was true, and I was willing to give more time. So, at the time his dad had only had 4 separate weeks out of the year in his state. And then he was allowed to come to our state and spend the last weekend of every month. And he didn't take any of the in Michigan time, but then he did take the time to like come and get him. So like, I gave him credit. Like if like he showed up to court, he did what, this was when we like went through the court system before, but he was there when we were doing in-person court hearings. Like he showed up, he gave the effort, regardless of what his motivation was. Like I respected the fact that he was there and he was fighting for a kid. Because, one thing I do remember talking with him about when, he did come back into our life was just that, like, I will never be the mom that takes my kid away from his father, because I know what that feels like and I've seen what it does. So if you want to be there, I will always give you the opportunity, however, I'm not going to beg you. Right. And I'm not going to like force this relationship upon you. Like if you want it, it's there, but like it's an open door, right? Like, so you just have to kind of communicate, or, when we went to court, it's like this is what you have, and, et cetera. So, when we went to court, I tripled his parenting time. I told him he could have like 12 to 13 weeks out of the year, and then anytime he comes, to Spain, like, he can have that time too. So like, I just have really made everything that I do about him. Like, even thinking about moving to Spain was just like, okay, there's a lot of like different ways that this can go, either, it could be really good for him, or you can really struggle, and so that's a conversation we had too, is, we're making this move and I just need you to be open and honest with mommy. If you want to go back, if this isn't what you want, or you don't feel good or comfortable, like communicate. And actually that was one of the things too, that the judge had said when he made the final decision that we could move. He had asked my son's father, if he thought I was a good mother, which he said, yeah. And he said, do you think that she'll do any and everything in her power to make sure that your son is taken care of? And if he's, struggling, then I will do everything in my power to make sure, he's okay. And, he also said, yeah. And, I think that just is kind of a testament to, me as a mom. So
How old was your son when you moved to Spain?
6.
It just reminds me of the conversation you had with your mom
Mhm.
when you guys were moving to Missouri. And I already know the answer, but do you feel like if at any time he were struggling, he would be absolutely open and honest and come to you and say that?
So yes, I do. But I do think that he's now learning how to navigate and manage feelings and emotions. And I don't think he always knows what he's feeling. And so right now we're working on so right now we're really working on emotional intelligence, like how to know what you're feeling,
Right.
how to express what you're feeling, using words to be able to describe what you're feeling, and so that's a work in progress. But, I do think that he has a safe home environment. I think he has a safe environment to open up emotionally and talk with not only me, but also with his dad and his dad's family, which, like, honestly, I will credit to our move because they're a lot closer because of this move. They talk all the time and they see each other triple the amount. Like, I think it was great for all parties involved.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you feel like that's made his father a better person?
I think so. I only know the man in one capacity, really,
Right.
but my son is happy, and like, he's with him right now. I just talked to him the other day and he's like, I'm kind of sad. Like, I don't really want to leave. And I'm like, I'm glad to hear that, because if you were ready to leave, like, that's because you're not enjoying yourself, or there's, then I have to worry. So I'm like, okay, I'm glad. And it sucks that you like, both because you want to be in both places and you can't be all the time. And so, like, I get that, so therapy will be a thing in his,
Yeah.
his near future. So
I wish that more couples would take a page out of y'all's book, because this was, I don't know, kind of a mixed bag of crap, and you guys could have gone like a very vindictive direction that I think a lot of people choose to go because of pride or whatever the fuck, and they don't think about the kid at all. And
Yeah.
it sounds like you guys did everything you could based on that, and not have you based on your feelings toward each other.
Yeah, they don't use him as a pawn.
Yeah, and that's really admirable, because I think probably if there were statistics being taken, that's like 1% of the population that has like custody issues. So
No, I will say I do think his dad and I do a good job of putting him first. I mean, obviously feelings and emotions do get in the way very often. Like, we've had some not so fun exchanges, which sucks because it's in front of the kid, and but I just do my best to kind of leave that as an open environment, like, talk to mommy about it. And I grew up, it's kind of interesting. So my stepfather is a retired cop now. And so he had this really, like, just strict, like, military lifestyle. And my mom, as we know, is this, like, magical human.
Benevolent.
She's so sweet. Yeah, she's so sweet and caring. Like, I can probably count on one hand the times that I've seen her upset. And so growing up, I always saw this dynamic of, like, my dad being more of the, like, aggressor, or the, the argument starter, the argument continuer. My mom, she would just kind of sit there and she would be very, like, closed off and reserved, which I eventually communicated to her. Like, I think it was in my early 20s. I was like, this is what I've seen. And so, like, I've always I thought of my mom as weak because she never fought back, and so she opened up and she told me that when she was younger, she was the oldest of 4 kids. When her grandparents or parents would get into fights, she would, like, hide all the sharp objects. And so she was always in charge of that. So she always said that, growing up, or when her kids grow up, that she doesn't want them to witness, arguing and fighting. And so it's, like, just kind of weird how, like, generationally, like, things, you do things differently because of your experiences, and then your children have a total different experience just because you tried to do the one thing that, like, you hated about, like, your childhood. And so I've noticed too, just with like my son, I don't mind arguing and having these difficult conversations in front of him, because I want him to see that, one, it's okay to argue or fight about things, but then like how to kind of try to do it respectfully. And I fail sometimes, like sometimes that we don't end on good terms, and it's like, crap, he just saw that whole thing, you know, or like I'll have an interaction with his dad, which is clearly not going to be resolved in a respectful manner in that moment. You know, but the main thing that I always kind of come back to is like, if I can just make sure that I create a safe and secure environment at home for my kid to come back to be able to process this when he is ready, or to feel comfortable like opening up and talking about it when he's ready. Like, I can't protect him from everything. I can't protect him from, you know, what the world is going to throw at him. But if he can feel safe at home, that's all I can do.
I had never really thought about that. Parents get so nervous about
No, I think it's really important.
arguing in front of their kids, and even stay together when they shouldn't, when it's probably best that children see that. And this is my last question. I don't want to harp on it, but just hearing you say kind of the way that your mom was with your dad, a little bit of more of like a demure, subservient figure. Do you feel like that was reflected in your relationship with your ex, with your child's father?
No. And I think that's probably why he wouldn't commit or be nice to me, because I'm not writing your papers. I'm not I'm not doing these things. Like, so there were a lot of things that like he expected of me.
I guess, you guys were never together. And I'm just never really together. Yeah.
So it was kind of a complicated situation. But yeah, no, there were, I think parts of me showed, and I think he knew that he didn't want to be with a person like me because I was too dominant. And I think that that's okay. I honestly, I love the person that he's with, and like, I don't really know her, so I'm not really sure of her character, but I think she's really good for him, and she's been consistent, although she's been consistent since I was pregnant, but she's been consistent. And, did I mention she's been consistent? So at least my son has, you know, he's only known his mom, his dad's girlfriend, and now the one male that I've really brought around, which is like my now husband. So, you know, I think that, you know, is best case scenario, honestly. Like, I wouldn't have rathered it any other way. And like I said, I do think that they're good together. So as long as they're happy and my kid is happy, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I think the final frontier, I guess, is I'd like to hear a little bit about your relationship with your stepfather.
Yeah. Actually super interesting. So yeah, growing up, like I said, very like strict. And so, you know, I think it created a little bit of like a hardship within the dynamic of the family, because my mom was always like super protective of me. I was very like attached to my mom, but then he came in and he was the provider, and he was like learning, you know, he didn't bond with me at like infancy, you know, so he was kind of like thrown into this marriage and this, you know, child, just like my poor husband, who's doing an amazing job.
How old were you?
She was 4, I think.
I was 4 when they got married. Yeah. They started dating when I was around 2, so I don't know when I was introduced, but yeah, 4 was when they got married. So our relationship was pretty hard at the beginning. We did not get along well. He actually kicked me out of the house for a little bit when I was like 16 years old. So there was a lot of things. We pretty much from like 16 until I was like 23, which is when my son was born, like we communicated very, very little. It was just a lot better if we didn't communicate. And then when my son was born, it was kind of one of those things like, okay, like my mom's my best friend. My mom is your best friend. Like, we need to figure out how to just kind of be. And then shortly after that, he started therapy, and that was huge. Oh my goodness. It was huge, because he really started changing. So he really was working on things in the relationship with my mom. You could tell she was a lot happier. He was working on like open communication with my younger sisters, who are 8 and 10 years younger than me. So like they were still in the home. And then over the last couple of years, like my relationship with him has blossomed a lot. So, you know, we've had maybe 2 or 3 really tough conversations. And he's like allowed me to have the floor, be open and honest, tell him like, things that I remember, my experiences, my feelings, and he's apologized for them, which is like huge. And 10 years ago, I would have never, ever guessed that this was possible with this man. And he does the same with my sister. So, our relationship is a lot better. He's still who he is. But like our relationship is like full 180.
That's amazing.
That is awesome.
You don't hear that happen very often.
No.
Mhm.
When you two were having a very strained relationship, did that affect your relationship with your mom at all?
Yeah, so I was out of the state during that time. So I went to school in North Carolina. They were in Michigan. I was in North Carolina, and then I moved to Florida directly. Yeah. So I would call and talk to her, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I was also like, college age, like, going out doing things. So like texting was more of a thing, like, hey, are you home? Yep, I'm good. Love you. Bye. Type of thing. So, but I definitely know that it was very emotional for her. Like it was a lot on her. And so, yeah, like I don't even think I really came home that often during college, because it was just like, I wasn't allowed home for a while. And so it was like, I would have been staying at other places. So I was like, I'll just stay where I am.
I was angry for a moment, and I'm going to. I think that when you think of a grown man, a retired cop, nonetheless, to swallow his pride and apologize to 4 women is unbelievable. The humility that has to take, I have got to tip my hat to. That would be hard for anyone to like swallow that. And so I'm so happy that happened for you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, he's a good man. So
Good.
super blessed, super fortunate to have him in our life.
Amazing. Well, Ariel, you are a beautiful person, beautiful mother,
Stunning,
beautiful wife,
icon,
queen. And can you go over for us one more time, just an accumulation of what you're up to? You live in Spain. You are the expat therapist. Tell us more about all of your endeavors.
Yeah. So after my move to Spain, I struggled with my mental health, and I realized how hectic it was to try to find mental health support. And so once I was able to come out of my cocoon, I realized that I wanted to start targeting expats and immigrants and help them out and be able to provide mental health support. So Global Transitions is the name of my company. So globaltransitions.co. And yeah, so my Instagram handle is the expat therapist. I give lots of free resources there. I also have a podcast called The Expat Therapist, Navigating Mental Health Abroad, where I talk about real life expat things. So I interviewed a few expats just to get some different stories and experiences. Really, my goal is to be able to help increase awareness of expat mental health and provide validation, guidance, and support for us expats out there, because we all got to stick together.
That's such an incredible.
It's such a good niche. Oh, it's such a good niche. These two are pretty well traveled, and I am not, because it fucking stresses me out. And I can't imagine literally moving abroad to somewhere where they do not speak your native language. And I think I've never heard of someone like specifically addressing what all that leads to. And I think it's so smart and so necessary and just so important.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much more than you know.
Well, we have loved having you. You are most certainly a guest of honor. You have taught us all an exorbitant amount in the matter of 3 hours or something. We couldn't be more grateful. You're really, I haven't said this about a guest yet, but you're like an amazing example as a guest, just as a guest and a human being. So we love you.
I love you.
We'll see you on the other side.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Ariel.
Thank you, Ariel.
I fucking love her.
I wish that she didn't live in Spain.
I
love
know,
that
I'm-
she lives in Spain.
I'm having separation anxiety already.
Separation anxiety already.
Can you imagine what a fucking amazing therapist she is?
Therapist, wife, mom.
Yes.
I would sign up.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So if you are an expat living in Spain, in Valencia, I
Mhm.
believe,
Yes.
hit up Ariel, obviously. I can't stop using hyperboles for her that like suggests that she is infinite.
Yes.
Because she is. But to just hear about her having the gumption to go and visit him in prison, and hearing that really kind of, we've encountered that where it really kind of closes a chapter for you naturally.
Yeah.
And then what a joy to hear about her relationship with her son today.
God, she's so gracious. She
Yes.
is so, so gracious. Obviously, there's the whole thing with her dad's killer.
Mhm.
But then to even just hear about her relationship with her ex,
Mhm.
the father of her son, is just amazing. She is, God. And the fact that she's just always seeking counsel, always looking to better herself, to better her, to be the best mom and wife that she can be. Oh God. And I have to meet her husband.
Yes, he is so amazing. And yes, to hear about like her without fear seeking constructive feedback and or criticism from her family about
Yeah.
being pregnant.
Yeah. You know how last week I was like, I know what I would do. And I know exactly what the fuck I would do. And I would absolutely not be reaching out to anyone.
No. Yeah. So yes, Ariel, you are infinite. We are so blessed to have had you
I want
on.
to be you when I grow up.
We do want to be you when we grow up. We can only hope. So glad that you were so forthcoming
Mhm.
and that we got to cover so much. And yeah, truly one of our
An inspiration
favorites.
to us all. Yes.
One of our favorites.
Thank you
of the
so,
season.
so much for doing this.
Yes. So thank you so much. We will see you next week with another very special lady,
Yes.
Caitlin.
Oh my gosh, she's so funny.
We've really been blessed with our guests.
Yes.
Just the variety.
Oh God, Ariel, I think, is also extremely funny. She's
Yes.
very witty. Caitlin is just a crack up. I can't wait for you guys to meet her.
Yeah. So we will see you next week with Caitlin. In the meantime, we are signing off. We hope you leave feeling a little bit more normal in your own family dynamics, curious about the world around you, and excited for the possibilities. Have a good week. Take things in stride and leave people better than you found them.
Ciao, Bella, for a second time.
We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.